This episode of the Coarse Grind Podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Hey guys, this is Chef Jojo Doyle, Executive Chef and Director of Operations of the Honda Center and the founder of Extreme Culinary Outfitters, aka ECO. We love the industry and we love you guys, but we love the Coarse Grind Podcast with Sean Rossler more, so check it out when you can.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode number 128 in this pandemic-fueled madness with you as always this evening. Host creator Sean Rossler, how's everyone doing tonight? You know, the question really comes down to how long can I stay away? No, it's not from the cookies, the tap. My wife just ordered me a kegerator in the middle of a freaking pandemic, so that's a good move. Or the dried, cured meat goods. I'm talking from my dear old familiar friend Top Chef. Well, kids, if you're keeping score at home, not very long at all. Blame it on what you will, the current season of All-Stars, the absolute respect I have for the show, or just a pure, beautiful addiction to it. Whatever. I love it. I will always have who I consider to be the best and strongest players in the game on the show whenever they're able. And today's guest, despite a pesky pandemic and a wedding, the nerve, found the time to be here with us. Tonight's guest is a chef in San Francisco. Her cooking style focuses on utilizing and respecting local ingredients from the Bay Area while incorporating flavors and techniques from around the world. She's been named one of the San Francisco Chronicle's Rising Star Chefs of 2017 and has been included in 7x7's list of 8 San Francisco chefs prove a woman's place is at the head of a kitchen. You're damn right. She competed as a finalist on season 16 of Bravo's Top Chef and was robbed, I might add. Sorry. Michelle, she is passionate about sustainable seafood and believes that creating change starts with changing the narrative. And really, speaking of narratives, that's what we're here to put out there today, to dig deeper into her story, to understand how she's dominated the landscape like she has, and really just to understand what makes her chef heart tick. So let's find out all about it, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. My guest this evening, San Francisco chef and Top Chef, Chef Testant, standout, and robbed should-be champion, Chef Michelle Minori. How are you, Chef?
Hello, thank you for that beautiful intro.
Oh, you are so welcome. You deserve it. You deserve the Top Chef crown, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm still bitter. Thank you so much for taking the time. Again, I know we had to reschedule, but just on air and in person, man, congratulations on the nuptials. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much.
I ended up sniping a photo from Eric Ajapong, and you just looked deliriously happy. So I couldn't be more happy for you. Congratulations. And what a time to be,
yes.
Doing this in, and I'm sure we'll touch more on that as we go. But again, thank you so very much for being here with us tonight. Folks new to the show, folks with terrible short-term memories like myself. 3 sections of the interview: starters, mains, and afters. Starters, we're going to talk about where the chef in question came from. Mains, we're going to talk about where they're at, what they're doing. And finally, afters, a little bit more irreverent, a little bit more off the cuff, but no one's been injured in 127 episodes in 4 or 5 years, whichever is greater. So I don't see that happening tonight. So without further ado, Chef Michelle Minori, tell me about where and what you grew up eating.
I love that question. I grew up in a small town, and we ate pretty typical American stuff, like hamburger helper out of a box, and I felt pretty lucky. Actually, we grew up, my dad had a garden in the backyard, and we, of course, were in charge of pruning the weeds.
Nice.
But it was a really cool experience, actually, to have that experience of getting your hands in the dirt and, putting a seed in there and and watching something grow and tasting a tomato like fresh off of the vine.
Yeah.
That was a pretty eye-opening experience that I think I didn't really fully understand how impactful it was until a lot later in life.
Yeah. No, I it's funny you say that. I was just upstairs right before we started talking. My wife and I are planning the garden for the year. And,
Nice.
I think there was a time where I might have viewed it as kind of a pain in the ass, too. Especially when I was growing up, when my mom was like, go out and pull weeds. All right, whatever. And now it's this, I don't know, I think you hit it. It's so much more. And not to jump forward too far, but in your season on Top Chef, it really felt like gardening and like, I don't want to beat the term farm to table to death because, maybe it wasn't that. But it felt like there was a real focus on the origin of foods in your season.
Yeah, I agree. There was a lot of focus and attention on heritage and where things come from. And we were lucky enough to have a physical garden there, which was such an escape from the stresses of Top Chef life of filming. So that was so cool and such a huge reminder that we are what we eat and we're a product of all that hard work.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So again, garden, part of your growing up, and, typical American fare. Would you say you were a picky eater growing up, or were you pretty adventurous?
I think I was pretty adventurous. I can't say that, like, there was anything that I didn't like to eat. I remember being the only one that was kind of curious about what was going on in the kitchen, too. And my father was the one who was passionate about cooking, so we'd pick chilies and tomatoes, and I'd watch him pickle them in the kitchen and barter them with neighbors for other goods. And honestly, my mom, I remember her not enjoying to cook very much, so.
Oh, nice. Okay.
She was the one who taught me, so she kind of, she helped me there.
Nice. Special meal wise, I imagine, it sounds like family was part of your upbringing. Were there any special meals, whether they're holidays or birthdays or just, random Friday nights that you can remember and think back to and really feel like a nostalgic pull towards?
That you mention it, I've always felt a special place in my heart for breakfast.
Nice.
And I think that's because every morning my mother insisted that we sit down at the table before we went to school, and that was kind of our time to really touch base, and she always made sure that we ate before we left. So I feel like, that was kind of like her way of showing love and making sure we were good.
Yeah. And that's so interesting that you answer it that way because, I think so often the responses I get are about specific dishes, about specific plates. And to hear that it was more about the experience really speaks to maybe the way that a chef or artisan, views food in a different light, views food as an experience less than a fuel or a function.
I mean, definitely, because I can't tell you how many times we ate cream of wheat.
Nice. Yeah, it's not about what. It goes back to, I think it was Bourdain who was interviewed, and, they said, I'd be nervous to cook for you if you came to my house, and Bourdain said, it could be friggin', meatloaf, whatever. Someone cooking for me shows their love. And like,
absolutely.
Too true. So I hear a bit of a dueling influence, and I'm interested to know, who is your greatest culinary influence growing up?
Well, it's funny because growing up, I was like a big nerd, and I mean, now that I think about it, and I think especially on my time on Top Chef, it was kind of eye-opening for me. I mean, culinarily wise, I got all of my passion from cooking from my father. Nice. Just watching him like be in the zone in the kitchen, it looked like he was at such peace, and to be able to use whatever he made to create these relationships with our neighbors and to watch that was pretty influential. And I didn't grow up thinking I'd be a chef. I went to college to be a physical therapist and kind of fell into cooking. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, a physical therapist. That is a bit of a jump. I have to go back though, because, you know, being a geek myself, I'm always interested in what quantified you to be said nerd. Like what was it that classified you there? I gotta know.
Well, I played the violin for like 10 years.
Right on.
But but I was also sporty, so I'm kind of a chameleon. I feel like I can fit in all the groups. But
okay.
Yeah, I was also like the good girl growing up. Like, no, I didn't get into trouble. I got good grades.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on. No. So I don't know. I think nerdy's a bit of a misnomer. You know, I think you were a chameleon. I like that. I was
very well-rounded.
See, there you go. Now, see, from a geek like myself, let me help you feel better about yourself. I was in marching band in high school, in college,
awesome.
And my first semester of grad school. That's how dedicated I was. And
I love it.
I won't even get into when I was a kid, I would watch cooking shows on public television on Saturday mornings when my friends were watching sports and cartoons. So
yeah.
I think it was there. So if you ever need a pick-me-up, Michelle, this is at about 12 minutes into the interview. Just go back and play that, and you're going to feel like $1 million. So
I'll feel so cool.
Although, I don't know, you played violin, you were a string, so they were kind of the nerds.
Yeah, we hung out with the drama kids.
Well, I shouldn't talk about my stage career then. Moving on. So you went to college to be a physical therapist. Obviously, like you said, that's a leap. How did that come to pass? How did you end up here?
Well, I loved sports medicine. I loved sports. I love the human anatomy. It's fascinating. But I hated college. I hated college so much. I felt like I either had to be like a total bookworm or a sorority girl. And maybe it's just like a weird time in my life, but I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I pretty much dropped out without telling my mom. And I wanted desperately to live here in San Francisco because I had fallen in love. We used to take a bunch of trips as kids out here, and I fell in love with the city and the diversity and just the magic of everything that it was. And so I looked for schools, and a cooking school popped up in just a random search, and I was like, oh, I could do that. I like to cook, and nice. I knew I didn't want to be a musician professionally, and so I signed up, and I had gotten accepted, and I hadn't even told my mom yet that I had dropped out of school. Surprisingly, she was very supportive. She just wanted me to be happy, and in the end, cooking school was a lot more affordable than 7 years of college.
Oh, most definitely. And, you know, not for nothing, but I'd say the investment turned itself around.
It worked out.
Yeah, I'd say you're doing all right. There you go. There's credit where credit is due.
Well, it's funny because my mom, I think she was always worried about me. You know, she wanted me to be successful. And as a chef, you do not start out being successful. You work long hours. You don't get paid. They never see you, your family. And really, I mean, not until Top Chef did I think she ever feel really comfortable with my career choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a, you know, and this is just from this side of the mic. Like I've done some cooking. I've cooked some demonstrations and that kind of thing. You know, I dabbled in it. I did some line work in college, and I just, you know, I'm a hobbyist at best. I just happen to surround myself with brilliant people like yourself and glean knowledge where I can. But you know, having done that, you know, the talks that I've had, the common story is that it's like, you know, this is one of the only industries where you really can't like fake it to get into a higher up position. Yeah. You have to earn your damn stripes in an order that you cannot leap. Like you cannot jump to, well, I don't know, maybe you can in some family kitchens, but you know, and so I imagine that had to be stressful for mom, but I think mom knew what you were capable of, and again, I think the investment worked out pretty well for everybody involved.
Not too bad.
No, listen, we're not too bad. God, the humility. So here you are. It's post Top Chef. You are, out on the interwebs on Instagram, on michelleminori.com. You're, cooking gigs here and there. But the one thing I want to talk about that you kind of brought to my attention I didn't see was, like, you're working a full-time job, too, with Off the Grid, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's my bread and butter and my passion right now.
Right on. So in however many words it takes you to describe it, I don't limit words here on the show with descriptions. Tell us what Off the Grid is and what it does.
So Off the Grid is it's like a mobile food company that creates these community experiences through food. Basically, we operate food trucks, and for me, that was like a whole new experience because I come from fine dining and the restaurant situation. So, a little bit of a learning curve, but what I do for them is research and development. And one thing that they really care about is being able to offer like a unique, a creative, and an authentic food experience. And one of my passions is being able to combine different cuisines from all over the world and being able to bring them together in one place. So it's been such a great relationship so far. It's been about a year that I've been working with them.
Incredible. That's incredible. And again, I'm just kind of lightly scanning the content out on the site. Again, folks, if you're interested, offthegrid.com, they have a wonderful blog presence, and it looks like it's a combination of a little bit of everything. Like there's a cook with us, linguine with shrimp and clam sauce. I'm in. Commuting to work, how you're helping local Bay Area communities. So it really seems like it's just a great overall community to be connected with.
And they really care about their employees. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had as a chef to work for a company that understands that it functions on the health and well-being of everyone involved.
That's incredible because, I mean, not to take a step into the dark reality, that we're in, but man, the human interest side of things has been. Here's the positive side to it. I'm stumbling because it is such an overwhelming reality we're in right now. The reality is that more people are in more need than any of us have ever seen in our lifetimes. Full stop.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you stamp that for what it is. It's negative as shit. It's terrible. It's not. It's no bueno. On the positive end of this, though, is that, not to quote Fred Rogers, but you're finding the helpers. The helpers are just naturally coming to the surface. And that's incredible to watch and to see. You see the underpinnings of humanity, both good and bad, really reveal themselves. And so it sounds to me like this offthegrid.com is very much that human-centered entity.
Absolutely. And I'm just blown away by the hospitality of everybody in our industry. Everyone who's there day in and day out taking care of people. That's literally what we do. And they're, all of my friends, they're in these horrible situations where they're not getting paid. They've shut down their businesses and they're still working their asses off, making food and feeding people because that's what they do.
You're not seeing, and okay, so 5 years into the show, I know I've beaten this point to death at this point. There's a reason why I am fascinated to an unhealthy amount with the culinary industry, and it's because of that very fact. Look around at all, a good amount of the other folks who have been laid off. They are home, they are, collecting, they're safe, their family's cared for, great. There is such a common thread through the culinary industry right now where it doesn't matter. They're family. And they're shoulder to shoulder mucking through the shit together. Like Hosea Rosenberg, I just had he's got Santo and Black Belly, and like they're creating meals for the community every day. Folks who have been on the panels, they're talking about what they're doing for their community. This would normally make people fold, and yet and this is why when a chef tells you, I worked a 16 or like something crazy like that,
right.
Normal mortals fold up like a goddamn chair, and yet you
yeah.
all seem to flourish. So you're
Well,
superheroes. You really are.
It's so funny because I said to my now husband one time, I was like, yeah,
Wait,
I
I'm
really
sorry.
believe
Could you
in,
say
like,
that again, Michelle? I didn't hear that. Who is he to you now?
oh, my husband.
Oh.
I told him, he's not a chef, and I told him, I really believe that nobody should work more than 10 hours a day. And he was like, are you serious? Did you just hear what you said? And it was like really eye-opening to me. Like an 8-hour shift as a chef, that feels like a half day. And, maybe the one positive thing too that's coming out of this is, can we take a moment and step back and look at how we've allowed ourselves to create this life, and can we change
Yes.
the things that we think are acceptable for us?
Yes.
I saw in a
Yes.
magazine one time, it was this restaurant had an advertisement, and there was a picture of the chef in the kitchen. They said, come down, like the chef's here 7 days a week. He's really passionate to feed you. I was like, why are you advertising that? That's not okay.
No. And that's really, there's actually, an individual out there in California with you, Chef Jojo Doyle, who, what's his clothing line name? I'll find it here in a minute, but he's very passionate about the mental health element. And, obviously
Absolutely.
with Tony's passing, I think it at least shone kind of a brighter flashlight on the topic at hand. And now we just can't deny it. I think everything changes to an extent because we've realized, and my biggest hope is that you all, in the industry, the fascination, the respect, the adoration that I and the show have for you, that becomes more commonplace, and you don't need a platform like my little Bush League podcast putting you out there and saying, hey, look, this is important. These are the hearts and minds behind the plates that you take for granted. And especially now that people can't dine out, I think it's definitely echoing a little louder than ever before. I'm not sure how loud, but I'm hoping it's louder than before. So that's offthegrid.com, doing great work out there. So let's talk about specifically the work you do. Some of the menu planning, the recipes, and so on that you create in your wonderful creative mind. What inspires Chef Michelle Minori?
I think it's diversity, number one. That's one thing that I really love about where I live. And I always say that the Bay Area it's a lot like a salad bowl. We're all in the same space together, and we can be together and still maintain our identity, and it just makes us better.
Nice.
There's so much cool stuff going on. Inspired by like the beautiful produce and like farmers and the cheeses and the wine. Like I feel like we live in this magical little world.
You are out there. I mean, I don't know. I actually didn't tell you like how East Coast we are. We're Central PA, and I gotta tell you, I have a mild to moderate love affair with California, just as a state, as a location. My dear wife, for my 40th, flew us into Buellton, where they filmed Sideways. It's a fantastic movie. And
awesome.
we stayed at the Sideways Inn, and we drove to Lompoc and did the wine tour. We didn't get out and fist fight along the road, which I was disappointed with that.
Next time.
We ended up doing a road trip all the way up to San Fran. And you have something so unique out there. I adore the living hell out of it. And I'm just looking at the pictures on offthegrid.com as they scroll by. And, the mobile movement, the food truck movement, that's got to have helped the wonderful combination, the diversity, to use your word, of the culinary scene out there. Not that it wasn't already diverse, but that's got to help.
Well, I wonder, too, if it's going to increase because of this, the overhead and the time commitments that it takes to run a brick and mortar, the tiny margins that you're living off of. It's a lot. It's so much to run a restaurant. So I wonder if that will change, especially now.
I can't really, I think, and I don't know, I'm kind of spitballing here based on folks I've had on. I talked to Lisa Fernandez from season 2 back when she just opened Sweet Chili Food Truck in Manhattan. This would have been in 2015. And back then, it was a little more like, really? You're going to do that? And then I think by like 2017, 2018, they were becoming kind of en vogue as far as, going to a food truck, setting up a bunch of food trucks in an area and just letting people go nuts. And now, to your point, man, that 70 to 75% number of closures, if indeed that's correct, and I think Tom Colicchio kind of tossed that out there. I'm sure you got it from a source. But if that's the case, then, how many of those 70 to 75% become food trucks? It's a great question.
There's all these people with so much passion and skill. And, especially right now, I think the statistic is independent restaurants make up 11 million of people in our workforce.
Jeez.
That's it's incredible. It's 4% of the GDP. And I think we really need to recognize the importance of that number.
Yeah.
And what it means for our economy and our local economies.
That's not a small number at all. And wow, I'm not
going to... one thing I'm curious about, I was speaking with my father's friend. I call him my uncle now. They were actually union organizers when I was growing up, and he was talking about unions. And then I heard this talk with Ed Lee, and he kept using the word unified over and over again. And I thought, well, what happens if independent restaurants just unionized? Ooh. Is that a conversation that we need to have? Can we have one unified voice?
Damn. I mean, that's a great question. I wonder. I mean, first of all, it's friggin' Eddie Lee, so I'll take that, with some pluses by the question. I don't know. I think there's always positives and negatives with unions. But to get that unified voice, I mean, hell, that's why unions were created in the first place. So.
Exactly. So I'm just curious. It was just a thought that I had. Having someone to speak up. And this is really the first time we've ever had a chance to fight for the things that we need, because we're not busy 16 hours a day in the kitchen right now.
Exactly. No, exactly. And then you find time to get married and be on a podcast. So there's that too. Well done, by the way.
Multitasker.
Exactly. So all that in mind, I think there are still trends that are coming through the industry, that are in the industry right now, especially with COVID in focus. And I don't know, maybe we answered this already with the food truck. What's going to be the next big thing that comes in? Take your inspiration, aside. The industry moves in a general direction and has a couple big things on at a time, like farm to table, molecular, and all that, type of stuff. What's going to be the new big thing?
Well, I think a lot of this, pick up and go, what I've seen that's really cool, my favorite restaurant in San Francisco is called Prairie. I think they were one of the first to do it. Is they created a general store. Nice. And I would hope that we rely on our local businesses a lot more. Nice. Hopefully this is a time of awareness where you can go to your corner store and get everything that you need. You can create a relationship with them, and hopefully they would have a relationship with the farmers. These chefs who are running restaurants, they're ordering produce boxes for people, and you can go and pick up a week's worth of produce at a time and get some local pasture raised chickens and farm raised milk and cream and butter and all these beautiful things. And I really feel for middle America and places where they call them food deserts, but really they're food apartheids because they're put there for a reason. And can we break that system as people? Can we build a strong, food resilient, strong resilient food system in our local economies?
Yeah. And
I hope.
Does that begin with unionizing the culinary industry?
Yeah, that's a conversation.
I think that's a little more than a conversation, and that didn't even enter my mind. That hasn't entered any conversation I've had to date. But boy, now that you're saying it, I think it's the way out. And I don't know. That's crazy.
It seems like a way to guarantee that chefs are not killing themselves, inside and out every day.
I was going to say literally and figuratively.
Yeah, breaking their bodies and breaking their spirits. I mean, I know that running a restaurant really broke me down physically. I'm 33, but I feel like I might be like 53 in chef years. So,
well, I'm halfway between that, Michelle. I'm 43, so thanks for the vote. I think of confidence. I'm not sure.
You're welcome.
No, I mean, I think the same way, here's a potential parallel. The same way that nurses unionize. Well, why do they unionize? Well, mandated overtime. Well, you talked about working 16s before, breaking your body down. I think it's a way to address not only the mental health situation in the culinary industry, but the physical health, the longevity. And again, I think it gets back to, when this is in our rearview mirror, along with the orange joke that continues to drive us deeper into hell. I think we look at the restaurant industry in general with the glorification, or at least the respect that it deserves. Because I don't think we do that now. And, again, you oh, wow, this is prepared beautifully. Do you understand how many people are in the back, working through that? You don't. Go ahead. Go work a shift before, Karen, you send your shit back because you didn't like it. Oh, my God, it was too well done. What?
Everyone should work in the hospitality industry.
I believe that so wholeheartedly. Everybody, I don't care who you are. Forget military service. Do that if you want to, okay? But you should have to wait tables for a month.
It teaches you a level of humility for sure.
You learn to bite your tongue. I'll never forget. I was waiting tables and somebody pulled the old take the top off the salt shaker.
Oh no!
And it was this 80-year-old curmudgeon, and he was just a son of a bitch. I mean, he was tough to deal with to begin with. You knew when he was coming in, and they're like, "Rossler, he's going to your table." I'm like, shit. Can someone sit him somewhere else? And of course, he lands in mine, and that happens. And he ended up comping the whole meal and everything like that. And he walked out with a smile, and he continued coming back. And I'll never forget, one of the younger wait staff was like, "Yo, how'd you not flip out on him?" I'm like, "What does that do? At the end of the day, what does that do? You can't.
You can't. And that's another thing, right? Like, I couldn't be a server. It's freaking tough. And there's so many systems of inequities built into that. When you make your living off of how you respond to the way people treat you, what is that? Like, you can't be treated with respect. No. And you should just put up with that because that's how you make a living. And what if you're like a working mom or a working dad and you need to have the weekends off because you want to be with your family, or you need to be with your family, and so you can't work those days and you can't make the money that you need to. There's all these systems of inequity built in there. So why can't we just run restaurants where we pay people a decent living wage and everyone is paid equally?
Yeah. What do you think about Colicchio and the no tip, no gratuity?
Honestly, I really like that idea. There's another Zazie, one of my favorite restaurants in San Francisco, best breakfast in town. They do that, and it says on their menu, our prices are built in so that you are not expected to tip. We share compensation equally so that everyone has a living wage. They have health care. They have a quality of life. It seems to be a smart way to go. That's
awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. Having worked on both ends of it, when you hit your gold mines, you start to mark customers, and you know the parties that you're going to do well with. I went to school to be a middle school, high school English teacher, and so I could be humorous with kids. Kids I got. So when tables with kids would come in, they'd come in the back and be like, "Rossler, go get them." And, I'd play to the kids, and they'd end up tipping 30-35%. And, but again, it's it's part of it. If you're not willing to do that, I firmly believe, like, if you're not willing to compensate that, I don't know, maybe you should stay home, or maybe you should wait that table for a month and see how you feel at the end of that. Anyway, not to get too far off both of our soapboxes have come out in full force, which is awesome. Which is awesome. I love it. So pick up and go to get back to the next big thing. You know, I think that's great. I think, you know, even in our small area, one of our small farm to table restaurants is doing like a grocery out of the front of the restaurant, and it's amazing. Like, you can get a jar of duck fat, you can go and get bacon, fresh bacon, all these, you know, amazing things, and people are starting to pay attention to it. So I would definitely, I definitely think you have a point there. What about something trend-wise that's still around and has overstayed its welcome, and you'd love to see just go away?
I love those questions, but I don't know. I can't think of anything right now.
Nah.
What do you think?
She's pulling Switzerland. Don't turn this table around on me. You're pulling Switzerland. This is what I'll say, and I've answered this a couple times in some interviews, and I say some, like I can count them on two fingers, that I've done recently. Here's the thing. I'm gonna say farm to table, but hear me out. Hear me out, because I love the literal farm to table. Here's what I don't love. Everybody slapping that label on its ass if 10% of their produce comes from a farm within 50 miles. That does not make you a farm to table at all. I wish, just like how they name wine varieties based on the percentage of grapes that are in it, like it's got to be 75% this to call it this. I want that to be, I want there to be a commission. Maybe it's in the new union, Michelle. I want there to be a commission that measures the amount, that looks at your invoices and says, you didn't buy 75% of your stuff from within a 50-mile radius, so you're going to lose that denotation for the month.
I think that's so cool. I've definitely considered something like that before. Like, what if there was some kind of rating system that said, okay, you're like a level 5 sustainable restaurant. Yeah. Because you are very thoughtful with your sourcing, and you can't have that designation unless you meet this criteria.
Yeah. I mean,
same thing.
Not to get into another set of Michelin stars or, you know, anything like that, but like, you know, kind of like your ratings that you hang in the window. Yeah. I think if you're going to be bold enough, and I've pissed off a couple people with this statement, but you know, if you're going to be bold enough to say, yeah, we're farm to table. Well, no shit. Everything is a farm to table, really. If you take it at that,
some way.
Yeah, it's from a commercial farm. Congratulations. Way to be part of the problem. Now, why don't you go to the farm stand that's 5 minutes up the road from you and buy your produce there? That's just me. Soapboxes, you're really pulling my soapbox out, Michelle. This isn't fair. This is not.
Well, yeah, when we live in this time, I think we're really understanding our power, not just as chefs and in the choices that we make, but as consumers. Yeah. If we can teach consumers like the importance of our choices and the power that we have in that, like take a look outside. It's been a month since, you know, flights stopped and we stopped commuting to work, and the earth has had a chance to take a break, and she's doing great.
Isn't that crazy?
She's doing a lot. Yeah. So why don't we be more thoughtful? Is it so hard to, you know, not order an Amazon package that's going to arrive tomorrow? Can you wait a week? Can you not buy that unsustainable frozen calamari or the salmon that was not sustainably raised? If you don't buy it, they're not going to restock it. So every choice that we make, especially with our money, has a huge impact.
Yeah. And that's one of the hardest things to explain to those who tend to be a little more, I don't know, on the short-sighted end of the stick. That everything influences everything. Oh, this is great, bro. Gas is $1.67. Do you understand why that is? Do you understand what that's doing right now? I mean, you know, I'm glad, you know, I'm glad the price is down, but do you know what comes with that? Just
Right.
have a seat and wait, because you're going to find out real soon.
We just live in like this time where convenience is number one, and we want to be really efficient, but the things that we're sacrificing are resiliency, and that's what makes us stronger.
Agree. God, we should take this act on the road. This is good. We'll at least start a union. How about that? I'll be the spokesperson who's like the spy, because I'm not even a real culinary expert here, but I'll make it work.
You can do the talking for us.
I will. I'll be the mouthpiece. That's what I'll be. I'll be the Flavor Flav of the
hype man.
Hype man.
Everyone needs a hype man.
That's me. So what's next for Michelle Minori? I mean, you know, we get clear of the pandemic. You're loving what you're doing with Off the Grid, but what does your, 3-5 year plan look like? What do you got on the radar?
That's a great question. I don't know. I, like you were saying earlier, like having these spaces that can also become larders, right? You can go to your favorite neighborhood spot and get a beautiful meal, and also like, have a beautiful meal at home. You just like go up to the counter. Maybe there's like a cool takeout window, grab everything that's house made, and go make dinner at home. I mean, like my romantic little dream is to one day have a place like that, where we make everything in house.
Nice. A
little bakery. We make charcuterie, pasta program, of course.
Nice.
That's like my long-term goal.
Nice. Pasta
dream.
Program. That's unbelievable. Cool. Well, I mean, I don't think this is just what I'm going to say based on, what I know and what I know now. I don't think that's too much of just a dream. I think that's something that's going to happen, but I'll be sure to have my eyes on, and everyone at home should be too.
There you go.
MichelleMinori.com if you want to check in, see what's going on. I'm sure there will be updates there should the larder open up, and I get hired on as the hype man for
there you go.
There you go. That's what I'll do. So that's you in a nutshell. Let's hit the afters real quick. And again, no one's been injured yet, so I'm thinking you're safe. I am standing in your kitchen. You can pick whether it's professionally or at home.
Okay.
What music am I listening to?
Ooh. I love jazz.
Nice.
I love rock and roll. I just discovered a band called the Olympians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're really fun cooking music. Spanish guitar. Anything that, like, I can use to zone out and just be present with myself in the kitchen. Totally.
Now let me ask you, because I just had this discussion with my wife over the weekend, and I found a wonderful Pandora station that I love cooking to, Pulp Fiction Radio.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's a whole bunch of like surf guitar and shit like that. The thing being the lack of lyrics. Do you find that helps you? Yes. Nice.
I can't listen to lyrics when I'm cooking or doing any kind of focus study thing.
Yeah. No, it's got to be that. But like surf guitar, I can't recommend it highly enough. That gets a little lift in you, and it's definitely worth checking out. I wrote it down. Nice.
Check it out.
All right. So next one, hypothetical situation. Imagine, if you will, you're going to be stranded on a deserted island, and you can only take 3 foods or food type items with you. They will be inexhaustible supplies via magic, but you can only bring 3. What would they be?
Well, furikake for sure. It's like my favorite spice blend. I put it on everything. It's embarrassing. Really good olive oil, because I feel like you can't get that on an island. Nice. And, it's good for everything.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, is chocolate an acceptable answer?
You tell. Listen.
Makes me so happy.
I'll give you mine was beef, bourbon, and beer. And my wife was like, "You're going to die of colon cancer." I'm like, well, like, here's the thing. If I'm stuck on this island, like, what do you want?
You gotta be happy.
Yeah, exactly. So chocolate. For sure, man.
Or coffee. I'm a coffee fiend.
Chocolate. How about chocolate coffee? There you go. You're covered.
There you go.
Awesome. Hey, have you ever checked out My Last Supper by Melanie Denea?
No.
It's a phenomenal coffee table book, photography book.
Okay.
She did a follow-up. Who was on the cover of Monoi? I forget. But the follow-up, the next course had Marco Pierre White before he turned into a chauvinistic douchebag, holding a French round in front of his face. And so the book is based on the premise, 50 world-famous chefs all ask the same questions. And the premise is centered around, your ticket's getting punched tomorrow. What is your last meal?
I've been asked this question before.
Mm-hmm.
It involves chocolate again.
Of course. Why would it not?
Yeah. I don't eat red meat often, but like one of my favorite indulgent treats is just like a really well cooked ribeye, a big glass of red wine, and my mom's chocolate cake.
Nice. Yo.
Just comfort food at its finest. Not good for you at all, but
No, but I mean, hey, does it really matter at that point? No.
Exactly.
It does not. It does not. And
not supposed to.
finally, Chef Michelle Minori, what is food to you in a single word? I love the struggle. That makes me so
adventure.
Adventure. Nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
Everything should feel like an adventure, no matter how big or small.
No matter how big or small, everything should be an adventure. And, boy, you are officially the first guest who I had to reschedule because you got married. So speaking of adventures, there you go. It's a small one, but certainly a memorable one. And I cannot thank you enough for making the time to be here with us. Just an absolute pleasure. MichelleMinori.com. She's out on the Insta. Be sure to check her out there. OffTheGrid.com. If you want to check out Off the Grid again, just such a great organization, such a great presence out in the Bay Area specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So be sure to check them out. And again, Michelle's site, phenomenal, just clean.
Thank you.
Look at the recipes. I didn't even see these. Why? Why now? Oh,
I gotta put some more up there.
Oh my God! Don't. Well, no, I was gonna say don't do it, and then I started reading more, and I'm like, yeah, do it, whatever. Please do it. Please do a lot more. 2-ounce hunk of Parmesan. The fact that that's the first ingredient my eye drew to says so much about me as a human being.
There you go.
Her handle's Michelle Minori on Insta, by the way. And you have a channel out on YouTube. Fair story.
I do. I have a couple of videos. Nice. I gotta put some more up there. They're in waiting.
Nice. And if you're ever interested in picking up the antiquated art of the email, she's at info@michelleminori.com.
Send me a message.
Yeah. Make the recipe, send her a picture. You know, in my case, it'd probably be how I failed because I was listening to too much surf music, but whatever. What are you going to do? Oh, my God. So, Michelle Minori, thank you so much again for being here. Appreciate it.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Thanks, Sean.
Yep, sure thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 128 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me this evening, the robbed champion of season 16's Top Chef, Michelle Minori. She laughs because she knows it's true. Our producer, as always, this evening has been Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out all his cinematic pig's feet happenings and artistic happenings out on the Instagram. Next episode, we're going to fire up the barbecue. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned. You can say hi and good night to Chef Michelle.
Hello.
Hi, Chad.
Oh, wait, you know my name?
And then Wesley. And Wesley just came down. This is my
Hi, Wesley.
12 and 10-year-old, and they're going to bed because they just played Fortnite. Yes, sadly.
Oh, have sweet dreams.
Right, take a night, buddy.
Good night.
Are you passing through central Pennsylvania and looking for one of the best dining experiences and craft brew menus around? Look no further. Turkey Hill Brewing Company and 991 Central Road in Bloomsburg, PA has everything you could ask for and then some. Service, food, beer together. Unbelievable. Be sure to check them out. Call them today for reservations. 570-387-8422. Call today.